Hi. Welcome to Lily's Story channel. If you like my channel, please like and subscribe. Now the story begins. Kelly thought she knew loyalty until Joey, her fiancé, lied in court to protect Jennie. The very person accused of attacking her mother, with no proof to fight back. Kelly was forced to watch Jennie walk free while Joey stood by her side, betraying everything they once shared. Determined to move forward, Kelly focused on her wedding preparations, pretending the pain didn't exist, but the truth refused to stay hidden. A whispered conversation revealed Joey's deepest secret. He and Jennie were more than just allies. They were mates.Worse. They had bonded on the very night her mother was attacked. Shattered by the betrayal, Kelly walks away, only to collapse under the weight of it all. When she wakes, she's not alone. Cameron, Joey's closest friend, offers her a choice. Face the truth or let it destroy her, but everything changes when Joey confesses that he lied under oath to protect Jennie. The trial was rigged, the love she thought was hers was nothing but a lie, and now Kelly must decide: will she expose them and reclaim her power, or will she let them bury her beneath their deception? The scent of damp earth and pine lingered in the night air as I stood outside the lunar court, my fists clenched at my sides. The verdict was not guilty, and my best friend, Jennie, walked away free. She was with me that night, Joey, my fiancé, had said to the elders. My heart pounded in my chest as I turned to him. Joey, you know that's not true. He refused to meet my gaze. Jennie couldn't have bitten your mother. She wasn't there. A lie. A betrayal. But I had no proof. No witnesses. And so, the court ruled that my mother had been attacked by a rogue, not by Jennie. Not by someone I had once called my sister. As I watched Jennie lower her head in fake remorse, I knew Joey had chosen his side. And it wasn't mine. Days passed, and I pushed forward with my wedding preparations, trying to bury my grief beneath satin and lace. Jennie was no longer in my bridal party. I had ensured that. But the hole she had left in my heart was impossible to ignore. I arrived at the wedding boutique, ready to try on my dress, but hushed voices caught my attention as I stepped inside. You really think Kelly won't find out? Cameron's voice carried through the air. She won't if you shut the fuck up, Joey hissed. I took a step back, pressing myself against the wall. My wolf bristled beneath my skin, warning me that something was wrong. Cameron scoffed. You were with Jennie that night, Joey. You weren't just covering for her but binding yourselves as mates. The floor beneath me seemed to shift. My fingers trembled as I clutched the fabric of my sweater. Jennie. Joey. Bound as mates. Why would they do that on the day my mother was bitten? Are they accomplices? I turned and walked out of the boutique, unable to breathe. My vision blurred as I stumbled through the streets, past the shops, past the pack members who barely spared me a glance. My phone vibrated in my pocket, but I ignored it. Joey's name flashed on the screen again and again. I turned my phone off. He didn't deserve to find me. The sun had long since set by the time I wandered through the town's quiet streets. I didn't know where I was going, only that I couldn't return. Kelly? I froze. Cameron stood a few feet away, watching me cautiously. We were waiting for you earlier. What happened? I exhaled slowly, and my body felt stiff. You already know. His jaw tightened. Joey. Don't, I snapped. Don't defend him. I wasn't going to. He sighed, stepping closer. But you need to talk to him. I let out a bitter laugh. Why? So he can spin more lies? So he can tell me how none of this is what it looks like? Cameron hesitated. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. I shook my head. But it did. The weight of everything pressed down on me: the loss, the humiliation, the betrayal. The entire pack would know. The whole pack would laugh at me. Pity me. Joey had bound himself to Jennie, Yet he hadn't even cancelled our mating ceremony. Knowing what he had done, he had been willing to go through with it. Why didn't you tell me? My voice was barely above a whisper. Cameron sighed. Because it wasn't my place. I turned to face him fully, my hands trembling at my sides. But it was your choice. You could have respected me enough to tell me the truth. A bitter laugh escaped Cameron. You think? He rubbed a hand over his face. Listen, I get why you're angry, but you must face this. I don't need to do anything, I bit back. Joey made his choice. Cameron exhaled, his gaze dark. Yeah, and you're making yours. I turned away, gripping my stomach as nausea rolled through me. I wanted to scream, to break something, to let my wolf take over and tear through the lies that surrounded me. But I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was fighting for my child. Cameron hesitated before placing a hand on my shoulder. Whatever you decide, I'll back you up. I glanced at him, searching his face for any sign of deception. But there was none. For the first time, I felt a flicker of something close to relief. I need time, I murmured. Cameron nodded. Take all you need. Just don't disappear. I didn't answer. Instead, I turned and walked away, feeling the weight of the night settle on my shoulders. But before I could think of what to do, my body felt heavy and collapsed to the ground. That was the only thing I remember before I closed my eyes. When I woke up, I first noticed the sharp, sterile scent of antiseptic. My head pounded as I blinked against the dim light filtering through the closed curtains. The walls were plain, and the room was unfamiliar. Then, I saw Cameron. He was sitting beside my bed. Arms crossed. His face unreadable. I tried to sit up, but a wave of dizziness hit me. Cameron noticed immediately and placed a firm hand on my shoulder. Take it easy, he said. You lost consciousness yesterday. You've been out for a day. My heart stuttered. A whole day? He nodded. The healer said it was due to stress. You're lucky your baby is still healthy, but you can't keep putting yourself through this. The reminder of my pregnancy settled over me like a weight, my and Joey's child. Please don't tell Joey, I begged Cameron. Again, it's not my place. But if you want Joey to choose, I will support you. I promise, Cameron said without hesitation, his eyes full of sincerity. I exhaled shakily. I need to get out of here. Cameron's lips pressed into a thin line, but he didn't arc. He helped me sit up slowly, his hand lingering near my back, ready to catch me if I swayed again. When I stepped out of the healer's room, I stopped cold. Jennie and Joey stood in the hallway. Their faces twisted with shock when they saw me. Jennie clutched Joey's arm, her eyes wide. Kelly? I forced my expression into something neutral, though my stomach twisted in knots. I wasn't ready to see Jennie this early. I still cursed her for what happened to my mother. I knew she had bitten my mother because she called me that night. She said she had a rogue sickness, and my mother went to her to heal her. After that, my mother got bitten, and they claimed innocence. What shocked me more was to see Joey with her. Here I was, suffering from all the betrayals he did and the fact that I was carrying Joey's child. Here, he was spending his precious days alone with Jennie. Why are you here? Are you sick? Joey asked. He didn't even ask why I hadn't shown up to the wedding boutique yesterday to try on the wedding dress. I was just under a lot of stress, said evenly. Joey nodded and glanced at Jennie before saying, I'll see you at home after I help Jennie with her checkup. My nails dug into my palms, but I refused to let them see how deeply those words cut me. Just as I turned to leave, Cameron appeared at my side. His entire body tensed at the sight of Joey and Jennie together. Are you out of your damn mind? He snapped at Joey. Joey's jaw tightened. Cameron, don't you have no shame, do you? Cameron stepped closer, his voice dark in fury. She knows, Joey. She knows everything. Joey paled, but I reached for Cameron's arm before he could say more. Not here, I murmured. I'll talk to him at home. Cameron's eyes burned with anger, but he held his tongue. As I walked past Jennie, my gaze flickered to her hand, resting lightly on her stomach. Suddenly, a sinking realization settled over me. Was Jennie pregnant, too? I didn't stop to ask. I couldn't. As Cameron and I walked away from the healer's hall, he turned to me, concern deepening the lines on his face. Are you sure you want to talk to him alone? I nodded. Joey's not violent. He's just disloyal. My voice wavered. And in love with someone else. Cameron clenched his fists. I don't trust him. Neither did I, but I needed answers. I needed justice for my mother. So I went home and waited for Joey. Cameron refused to leave, and I had no strength to keep pushing him away. I wanted to think of everything I could tell Joey, but I was too tired to argue. When Joey finally arrived after a few hours, his brows furrowed in confusion at the sight of Cameron. Joey scoffed, shaking his head before turning to me. What's going on, Kelly? I met his gaze, my hands trembling at my sides. I know everything, Joey. He stiffened. Everything? About Jennie. About that night. About how you bonded with her while my mother was dying. His expression darkened. Kelly, it's not that simple. It is, I snapped. You had a choice. And you chose her. Silence stretched between us, thick with tension. Joey exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. I never wanted to hurt you. Then why did you? My voice cracked. You let me believe we had a future. You let me plan our wedding while you were already bound to someone else. Joey's gaze dropped to the floor. I thought I could make it right. By lying to me? Joey didn't answer. I took a deep breath, my wolf stirring beneath my skin. I want justice for my mother, Joey. His head snapped up. Kelly, don't. You can choose between me and Jennie, I continued, voice steady. But if you choose her, I will ensure you both pay for your actions. It was a bad move. It doesn't make sense to ask him to choose between Jennie and me, but I must do it for my child. I want to tell my child when he grows up that his father chose another woman. Joey didn't choose, and my child should never trust his father. Joey's expression hardened. You're being ridiculous. That was when Cameron stepped forward. Then let me make it simple for you, he said coldly. If you choose Jennie, I will marry Kelly. And you won't be able to take her away from me. Joey's face twisted with disbelief. His hands clenched into fists at his sides, his entire body radiating tension. You're lying, he hissed, his gaze shifting between Cameron and me. You wouldn't actually marry him. I didn't know how to respond. The words barely settled in my mind, yet something about Cameron's unwavering presence strengthened me. I'm serious. Cameron said. You don't deserve her, Joey. Joey scoffed, shaking his head. You think she's just going to leave me? We're true mates. True mates don't betray each other, I snapped. True mates don't bind themselves to someone else while their Luna's mother is dying. Joey's golden eyes darkened with rage. You don't understand. I understand more than you think, Cameron cut in. You bonded with Jennie behind Kelly's back, and now you think you can just keep her? You're pathetic. That was all it took. Joey's fist swung first, connecting with Cameron's jaw. The sickening crunch of bone against bone echoed in the room. Cameron stumbled back but recovered quickly, retaliating with a punch to Joey's ribs. Joey grunted, his breath hitching as he lunged again. Stop it! I shouted, stepping between them as they brawled like feral wolves. Enough! Cameron took a step back, breathing heavily. Joey wiped the blood from his lip, his gaze seething with anger. This isn't over, Joey growled. Kelly, you are mine. Something inside me snapped. No, I said, voice steady. I was yours. But you lost me. Joey's face fell, his expression wavering. We're meant to be together. I shook my head. Not anymore. A heavy silence filled the room before I turned to Cameron. If I accept your proposal, will you help me get justice for my mother? Cameron's gaze softened. Yes. Joey's voice cut through the air like a blade. You're making a mistake. I turned back to him, my eyes burning with tears. No, Joey. You did. His hands clenched into fists. Jennie was a mistake. She was what I wanted for a good time, but you're my future. My breath hitched. How can you say that too? You don't understand. How can someone have two mates? I interrupted. Did you complete the bonding ceremony with Jennie? Joey hesitated, and that was all the confirmation I needed. If the pack found out, I wouldn't just be betrayed. I would be humiliated. My Luna title would be ripped from me, and Joey would still have his power. I exhaled sharply. Get out. His eyes widened. What? This is my house, I said, voice cold. I don't want to see you again. Joey hesitated, but something in my expression must have told him I wasn't bluffing. Without another word, he turned and stormed out. I collapsed onto the couch, my hands shaking as tears spilled down my cheeks. I thought I could still love him, I whispered. But after tonight, it's just gone. Cameron crouched beside me. Use me, Kelly, he said, his voice gentle but firm. Whatever you need. Revenge, power, protection, I'll give it to you. I looked into his eyes and nodded, then let's do this. Weeks passed, and what was supposed to be a wedding between Joey and me became a wedding for Cameron and me instead. The pack elders whispered among themselves, casting doubtful glances in my direction. How could I rule a pack if I couldn't keep a relationship steady? Cameron stood tall beside me. His expression unreadable. Then, in front of everyone, he spoke up. Your Luna was betrayed, he said, his voice carrying across the pack. Joey and Jennie dishonored her in this pack, yet you question her ability to lead? She has every right to choose a new mate, and I will stand beside her. The murmurs quieted, but doubt still hung thick in the air. Cameron turned to the elders. I ask for your blessing. The elders hesitated. Cameron was strong, but he wasn't their first choice. Yet, they had no choice. If they denied him, they would deny me the heir to the Alpha's throne. Finally, one of them spoke. You have it. The others nodded reluctantly in agreement. Cameron and I exchanged glances. We had won this battle. But Joey and Jennie weren't done fighting. They're lying to you, Joey's voice rang through the crowd. Cameron and I turned, only to see Joey and Jennie standing at the edge of the gathering. Cameron is no true alpha, Joey sneered. He's a Roque by blood. His mother adopted him into this pack, but he has no right to lead. A hush fell over the crowd. Cameron's muscles tensed, but his face remained stoic. Jennie took a step forward, a cruel smile on her lips. And let's not forget, she added sweetly, Kelly is carrying Joey's child. Gasps erupted from the pack. I felt the blood drain from my face. Joey took another step forward, his eyes locked on me. That's my child, he said. And you will give them to me. My breath hitched. The weight of the moment settled heavily on my chest. Cameron's growl rumbled beside me. Over my dead body. Joey's smirk widened. That can be arranged. The air in the gathering space was thick with tension. The entire pack stood stunned, watching Joey and Cameron square off. The weight of Joey's last words, his claim over my unborn child, hung between us like a blade waiting to strike. You have no right to say that, I said, forcing steel into my voice. Joey scoffed. It's my child, Kelly. You can't just erase me from this. Cameron stepped before me, his muscles coiled with barely restrained fury. She doesn't have to do anything. You lost your right to be in her life when you chose Jennie. Joey let out a low growl, his golden eyes flashing dangerously. You think you can just take my mate, my child, my future? You never deserved them in the first place, Cameron said. You had everything, Joey, and you threw it away. The tension erupted. Joey lunged, shifting halfway into his wolf form as he slammed into Cameron. The crowd gasped as they hit the ground, a tangle of fists and claws. Stop it! I shouted, my voice cracking with rage. Neither of them listened. They were locked in combat, rolling across the dirt and landing blows that shook the earth. Beneath them, the pack members formed. A hesitant circle, unsure whether to intervene. Then, a voice sliced through the chaos. Enough. The elders. Elder Miros stepped forward, his silver hair gleaming in the moonlight. This is not how we settle disputes. His sharp gaze moved to me. Kelly, as the future alpha, this is your decision, what do you want to do? I swallowed hard, the weight of my choice pressing against my ribs. I turned to Joey, who was breathing heavily, blood dripping from a cut above his brow. His eyes, still wild from the fight, locked onto mine. Leave, I said, voice unwavering. You and Jennie have done enough damage. Joey opened his mouth to argue, but Elder Miros raised a hand. She has spoken. Joey's nostrils flared, but he didn't push back. With one final glare at Cameron, he turned and stormed off. Jennie was waiting for him at the edge of the gathering. She gasped when she saw his face, but he brushed past her without a word. Cameron turned to me, breathing heavily. Are you okay? I nodded, though the turmoil inside me was anything but settled. The following days were a blur of whispers and sidelong glances. The pack was divided, some supported my decision, while others questioned my leadership. After all, I had been intended to be Luna beside Joey, and now I was preparing to stand with Cameron instead. The elders were wary. Cameron was strong, but his past as a rogue still clung to him like a shadow. One evening, as we prepared for the final rituals before the binding ceremony, I stood outside the Alpha's chamber with Cameron. Are you sure about this? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He reached for my hand, his grip firm. Are you? Before I could answer, the doors swung open, and Elder Miros stepped out. We need to talk, he said, his expression grim. Cameron and I exchanged a glance before following him inside. You've set a dangerous precedent, Kelly, Miros said, folding his hands on the large wooden table. Rejecting your fated mate in favor of another. I didn't reject Joey. He rejected me the moment he betrayed me. Miros sighed. Regardless, this has caused unrest. The pack needs stability, and right now, they don't know what to believe. Cameron's voice was firm. Then let them watch. Let them see that Kelly and I are the right choice. Miros studied him for a long moment. You have a fire, Cameron. But fire alone won't earn their trust. What will? I asked. Miros leaned forward. You need to prove that your claim to leadership is stronger than Joey's. You need a challenge. I felt my blood run cold. A challenge? Yes. The old ways. If someone doesn't want you to be alpha, they must challenge you. But I must warn you, people will see you as vulnerable. So, there might be more members who would challenge you other than Joey. You must be ready. The leader warned. The moment Elder Miros signaled the start of the challenge, the clearing erupted into chaos. My wolf surged forward, eager to fight, but I forced myself to stay grounded. I couldn't afford to make the first reckless move. 3 challengers stepped toward me. Not just Joey and Jennie, no, 3 others had decided to try their hand at claiming the Alpha's title. My stomach tightened as I recognized them: Darren, Tobias, and Lydia, 3 of the strongest warriors in the pack. They weren't fighting for power, they were fighting for Joey. My jaw was clenched. This wasn't just a challenge, it was a setup. Darren attacked first, his massive form lunging at me with a speed that belied his size. I barely dodged his claws as he swiped at my side, rolling out of the way and countering with a sharp kick to his ribs. He grunted but didn't falter. Tobias came next, flanking me before I could fully recover. His claws raked across my shoulder, and pain flared as blood seeped into my clothing. I gritted my teeth, ignoring the burning sensation. If I faltered now, I was done for. Lydia, smaller but faster, struck while I was distracted, delivering a decisive blow to my side. My ribs cracked under the force, and I staggered backward, gasping for air. But I refused to go down. I lashed out, knocking Tobias to the ground before pivoting and landing a crushing elbow to Lydia's throat. She choked, falling to her knees. Darren came at me again, but I was ready this time. I shifted mid-air, letting my wolf take over. My claws met his shoulder, digging deep, and with a powerful twist, I sent him sprawling. One down. I turned just in time to dodge Tobias's next attack. We clashed violently, claws and teeth bared. He was fast, but I was quicker. With a final, brutal strike, I knocked him unconscious. 2 down. Lydia barely had time to recover before I was on her, using my exhaustion and rage to fuel my final attack. She barely let out a yelp before I sent her flying, her body colliding with the ground with a sickening thud. 3 down. The clearing fell silent momentarily as the realization settled over the pack. I had won against the first challengers. But I was already breaking. Blood dripped from my wounds, my breathing ragged, my body trembling from the abuse it had taken. My wolf whimpered, urging me to stop to rest. But there was one more challenge left. Joey. He stepped forward, a slow smirk curving his lips. He hadn't even broken a sweat. He had watched as I wore myself out fighting the others, letting me bleed for his amusement. You put up a good fight, he said mockingly. But you won't last against me. I braced myself, but I knew he was right. Then he struck. Pain exploded through me as he landed the first blow, sending me crashing to the ground. I tried to push myself up, but he was on me again, claws tearing into my side. Blood splattered onto the dirt, my vision swimming as my body begged me to give up. I lashed out, barely grazing him, but it didn't matter. He was too strong, too fresh. I was already falling before he delivered the final, crushing blow. I collapsed onto the ground, my body refusing to move. My vision blurred, my breath shallow. Joey stood over me, victorious. The pack erupted into gasps and murmurs. Joey, the traitor, the liar he had won. But just as my consciousness began to slip, another voice rang through the clearing. I challenge you. The murmurs turned to shouts of disbelief. I forced my heavy eyelids open just enough to see him. Cameron. Joey turned, sneering. You? A rogue by blood? Cameron didn't falter. A rogue stronger than you. Elder Miros looked between them before giving a single nod. The challenge is accepted. Joey's smirk widened. I was hoping you'd say that. Cameron took his stance, eyes locked onto Joey's. His muscles coiled like a predator, ready to strike. The air between them crackled with tension. Then, just as my world went black, the fight began. The pain was the first thing I felt. A deep, hollow ache wrapped around my body, dragging me from the void of unconsciousness. My limbs were heavy, my breath shallow, and for a brief, disoriented moment, I didn't know where I was. Then, I remembered. The challenge. The fights. The blood. Joey's final blow before darkness took me. I opened my eyes, blinking against the dim candlelight flickering across the wooden beams above me. The scent of herbs and antiseptic filled my nostrils, starkly contrasting the metallic tang of blood I still tasted in my mouth. A shifting movement beside me made me turn my head. Cameron sat at my bedside, his face shadowed with exhaustion, his shirt torn, bruises darkening his skin. His knuckles were still raw from battle. You're awake, he murmured, voice thick with relief. I swallowed, my throat dry and raw. What happened? Cameron leaned forward, his hand finding mine. You lost consciousness, so Joey won. But I challenged Joey, and I won. He's been stripped of his title even without officially taking it. The weight of his words settled over me like a suffocating blanket. I had fought and bled, and still, I had lost. My pride was stung more than my wounds. Joey? Cameron's expression darkened. He's alive, but barely. The warriors brought him to the medical center to heal together with Jennie. I exhaled shakily, trying to process it all. What do you mean with Jennie? Cameron hesitated. She collapsed when Joey fell. She's in the healer's ward. She was pregnant, Kelly. Shock rattled through me. My fingers tightened around the sheets. I already had a hunch when I saw them together a few days ago, and Jennie was holding her stomach as if protecting something inside. What about my child? Horror took over me when Cameron didn't answer. He just shook his head, and I knew I had lost my child. Suddenly, breathing became hard and the veins in my heart were just aching so much. My wolf howled in pain, wanting to rip my skin so it could take over and run to the forest to express its sorrow. It was painful, but at the same time, I couldn't cry. I had barely let myself acknowledge the life growing inside me before it was gone. Cameron must have seen it in my face because his grip on my hand tightened. I'm so sorry, Kelly. I turned my head away, swallowing the grief that threatened to consume me. The pack? Cameron sighed. They're restless. Some of them still think Joey should have one. Others don't accept me as alpha. They're waiting for you to speak. To confirm that I have your support. I let out a slow, measured breath. Then we need to show them that you're the rightful leader. That this is over. Before Cameron could respond, a sharp knock echoed through the room. The door creaked open, and Elder Miras entered, his expression grave. 2 more elders followed, their faces unreadable. Cameron straightened, his presence shifting as if preparing for another fight. What is it? Miras glanced at me before settling his gaze on Cameron. We need to talk. I could already tell by the way he spoke that this was not good. Miros stepped forward, arms folded. The pack is divided. Cameron. Some believe you won fairly, others say you took advantage of Joey's weakened state. How about when the warriors challenged me to give way to Joey? Isn't that unfair to me? They wore me out. I didn't even fight Joey with my full strength, I complained. Miros nodded but didn't waver. That's true. But there's something else at play here. He looked at me, his gaze unreadable. You are an alpha blood, Kelly. You're from the alpha bloodline. Joey's father is beta. However, Cameron's a rogue bloodline. That made the difference. Regardless of the circumstances, there's one undeniable truth. The room felt colder suddenly. Miras's following words were like a blade to the chest. You cannot be alpha, Cameron. Silence stretched between us, thick with tension. Cameron's jaw tightened, his hands balling into fists. What are you saying? I won. I fought for this. Miras sighed, glancing at the other elders before continuing. Bloodline matters, Cameron. The pack follows tradition. No matter how strong you are, the council won't recognize a rogue boar alpha. The pack is already unstable. If we don't resolve this soon, we risk rebellion. Cameron's nostrils flared as his control wavered. So what? I just give it up. Hand it back to Joey? Miras shook his head. No. Joey is finished. But that doesn't mean the pack will accept you. My heart pounded, a storm of emotions twisting inside me. Then what's the solution? One of the other elders stepped forward, voice grave. He looked at me and said, You, Kelly. I blinked, caught off guard. Me? Miras nodded. You are the only one with pure alpha blood left. If the pack is to stay united, you must step up. Cameron stared at me, shock and something unreadable flickering in his eyes. I swallowed hard, the weight of their words crashing down on me. I don't know how I will do that. I lose. Miras's expression turned even graver. Then the pack will tear itself apart. And Joey's supporters? They won't stop until they take you down, too. They will take the title forcefully and might even wage internal war. It's been 3 days since I last visited the healing center. Although there is a possibility of internal war, Cameron has done his best to prevent it until we figure things out and I can show my power publicly. I had my phone and started scrolling through the community app, spying to see if someone was saying something about Cameron and me. But I noticed something different instead. Jennie posted a picture, a clear and undeniable ultrasound. Beside it was another photo of Joey, leaning over a medical report, his face unreadable. The caption read, "Baby, hurry up and come out. Your mommy and daddy can't wait to see you." I think this photo was taken when I saw them in the healing center a few weeks ago. Now that I've married Cameron, and they're claiming I cheated, they're publicly showing their love to each other. For some reason, I clicked more comments. I shouldn't have clicked on it. I shouldn't have scrolled down. But I did. The first comment was from Joey's mother. "Grandma is very excited, too. I can't wait to see my first grandson." That comment disgusted me, but what almost made me vomit was reading all of Joey's family, congratulating them as if their happiness were the only thing that mattered. How can they be happy with a child when I lost mine because of them? I thought back to my visit to Joey's family just days ago. They welcomed me warmly, nodding and smiling as I spoke about our future together. Was it all a joke to them? Had they been laughing behind my back while I blissfully planned a wedding that would never happen? I felt numb as I wiped away the tears that had poured down my face. Then I turned it off and had an idea that even I didn't think was morally right. "Are you okay? Do you need to stay here longer?" Cameron asked upon noticing I was staring into the air. I shook my head and told him, "I want revenge for losing my child." "Will you help me?" Cameron's eyes lingered on mine as if he thought I was crazy or joking. Surprisingly, he gave me a warm smile and nodded. "Whatever way you want to take revenge, I will help you. I love you, Kelly. I'll be here for you." "Thank you," I replied. Cameron was a nice guy, but I don't think I can love someone after I lost my child. Not yet, at least. By the time I left the healing center and went to Cameron's house, I had decided. The Green family had already sent bridal gifts, the customary gold jewelry, tokens of a future I had never had. I packed everything into a cardboard box. After this, I would sever all ties. But my body was weak. The loss of my child had drained me more than I cared to admit. I took a few days off from my duties, curling up in bed and forcing myself to rest. I cried every night. The pain was unbearable, and no amount of sleep or distractions could take it away. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the life I had lost. My child. My baby. Gone. Cameron didn't just sit idly by while I grieved. He was gathering evidence, every piece of paper, every witness, every lead that connected Jennie to my mother's accident. The moment he had enough proof, she was arrested. The news spread like wildfire. Jennie Green, Joey's beloved mate, was thrown into jail. The pack was in shock, and the Green family was outraged. But I didn't care. Joey came to see me. His face was desperate, his voice was shaking. And he tried to talk sense into me. He apologized repeatedly and begged me to let Jennie go, saying she was pregnant and that she didn't deserve this. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "No." His expression changed in an instant. His pleas turned into threats, but I didn't flinch. "I lost my mother, Joey. I lost my child. Do you think I'll let you be happy when both of you take everything from me?" His hands clenched into fists, his wolf raging beneath his skin. But I wasn't afraid. He could glare, threaten, even challenge me, and I still wouldn't budge. Jennie belongs in that cell, and she will stay there. When he left, Cameron arrived, and worry flashed on his face. He instantly asked if I was okay and what was Joey doing in our house. I explained everything to him, and he was pissed at how Jay acted as if it wasn't his fault. "But what's your plan now with Jennie?" he asked. I made sure the jail nurse would keep her baby safe. I stopped and thought for a few seconds. "But," Cameron asked as if he knew my sentence wasn't complete yet. "But once Jennie gives birth, I want that child." The errand hall was packed, and the weight of 100 stairs was pressing down on me. I stood at the front, Cameron by my side, as murmurs rippled through the crowd. The tension was thick, almost suffocating, but I held my ground. This moment was crucial. If I faltered and showed any weakness, the pack would tear me apart before I could even have the chance to lead. "I know many of you have concerns," I began, my voice steady despite the knot in my stomach. "There have been rumors, whispers of dissatisfaction. I won't deny that things have been difficult, but this pack needs leadership, and we will provide it." I let my gaze sweep over the gathered wolves. Some looked wary, others outright hostile, but none interrupted me. "I won't demand loyalty through force," I continued. "If you disagree with Cameron becoming alpha and me as Luna, you may express your concerns without war. We have suffered enough loss. If, after seeing our leadership, you still believe we are unfit, then we will consult the elders for cadence." Silence filled the space, stretching for what felt like an eternity. Some exchanged glances, weighing my words, while others clenched their fists as if holding back arguments. Taking a slow breath, I added my final plea. "I only ask for a chance. Let us lead. If we fail, you'll have my word we will step down. But until then, let us do what is best for the pack." A few nods rippled through the crowd, hesitant but present. Cameron placed a firm hand on my lower back, reassuring me that he was with me no matter what. After that, I could still see their unapproving gazes, yet they didn't act. So, I went to the healing center to check on my baby. Jennie's screams cut through the walls, raw and desperate. I could almost hear them from where I stood, even though I wasn't there. The pain in her cries didn't stir pity in me. It only reminded me of my own loss. She was bringing life into this world while mine had been ripped away. I imagined her clawing at the sheets, her body trembling as the contractions racked through her. And now, she wouldn't get the happy ending she thought she deserved. The moment her child's cries filled the room, the healer took that chance to take the baby away. Jennie lost consciousness after giving birth. I took the baby and told her, "You say this to no one. Do you understand?" The healer nodded. She understood my pain and why I was doing this for my revenge. Not all pack members are against me, at least not at least. I went back to the Alpha Mansion and held the newborn in my arms, staring at its tiny face so fragile, so pure. Then, I thought of having a second chance at being a mother. The baby barely stirred, entirely at peace despite the storm raging outside these walls. I traced a gentle finger over the soft, warm cheek, marveling at how small they were. "You're safe now," I murmured. Cameron watched me from the doorway, his arms crossed, unreadable. I could feel his gaze, heavy with questions he hadn't yet voiced. "Jennie and Joey will look for the child," he finally said in a low voice. I didn't look up. I told the healer that Jennie's child died. "There is no one besides us in there." He sighed, stepping closer. "Kelly, are you sure this is what you want?" My grip on the baby tightened slightly. This child was never meant to be theirs. Silence stretched between us. I knew what he was thinking, that this would make me a villain in the eyes of the pack. That even those who supported me would question my actions. But I didn't care. My baby's life had been stolen from me because Joey plotted that challenge. Now, I had theirs. And no one would take this one away from me. For 4 years, my world had been filled with nothing but happiness. My daughter, my child, was my light in the darkness. Every day, I woke up to her laughter, tiny hands wrapping around mine, and scent filling the house like sunshine after a storm. She was everything I had lost and everything I had gained. We had raised her together, which made him just as responsible for her as I was. He called her his daughter, and I let him. It was easier that way. For 4 years, I lived in peace. Yet, the fear never indeed left me. The pack members also trusted us to keep the peace. They sometimes questioned our decisions, but we were always transparent. The issue about Cameron being a rogue child died down because he now defines himself by what he does, not his past. Not once had I heard from Jennie or Joey. Not a single whisper, no threats, no demands. In the beginning, I had braced myself for war. Every day, I waited for their rage to boil over, for them to come storming through my doors, demanding their daughter back. But they never did. At first, it was comforting. I told myself they had given up, that they were too ashamed, too broken to fight me, that they had simply let go. But as the years passed, comfort turned into unease. Why weren't they fighting? Had they truly moved on, or was something else at play? I never voiced these thoughts to Cameron. He had done nothing but support me these past years. He loved our daughter, protected her, and gave her a far better life than she would have had with Jennie and Joey. I trusted him. Until today. I entered the pack mansion that morning with a light heart. My daughter had just turned 4, and I had spent the morning playing with her, watching her giggle as she ran through the gardens. It was a rare moment of peace, one I cherished deeply. Cameron had been gone since dawn, checking on the part of our territory that rogues had attacked. It wasn't uncommon, rogues were constantly testing our borders, but the attack had been large enough that he had personally gone to assess the damage. When I stepped into his office, I expected to find him there. Instead, I saw his assistant buried in paperwork. "Where's Cameron?" I asked. Already oving toward his desk. The assistant barely looked up. "Still out at the border. He should be back soon." I nodded. Glancing around the office, stacks of documents were piled high, some scattered across his desk, half read. Cameron had been busy. I reached for one of the papers, flipping it over absent-mindedly. But when my eyes landed on the words, my body went cold. Jennie and Joey Green. My pulse pounded in my ears as I scanned the document. My fingers clenched the paper so tightly that it crumpled at the edges. Jennie was out of aisle. She had never been in prison after birth and was happily living with Joey out of the woods but still inside the pack territory. And Cameron had known, but he hid the truth from me. I grabbed another document, my hands trembling. There it was, clear as day: financial transactions, regular deposits, month after month. Cameron had been sending them money. He had been supporting them. I forced myself to keep reading, bile rising in my throat. To my surprise, he had been sending them my daughter's pictures. My breath hitched, the room tilting slightly. The edges of my vision blurred as rage consumed me. Cameron had been betraying me this entire time. Without another thought, I stormed out of the office, the papers clenched in my fist. I didn't care that his assistant watched me go wide-eyed and alarmed, needed answers. Cameron returned late that evening, exhausted and covered in dirt from the border. When he walked through the door, I threw the papers at him. He barely had time to react before they scattered across the floor. His head snapped up, confusion flashing across his face. "Kelly. How long?" My voice shook, but it wasn't from fear. It was from fury. "How long have you been lying to me?" Cameron's expression darkened. "What are you talking about?" I took a step forward, my nails digging into my palms. "Jennie and Joey. They're out. You've been sending them money. Sending them pictures of my daughter?" His jaw tightened. "Kelly, let me explain." "Explain?" I laughed bitterly. "You've been keeping this from me for years, Cameron. What possible explanation could make this okay? He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. They weren't a threat. I kept them quiet. By feeding them information about my child? I cut him off, my voice rising. You let them see her grow up, let them into her life behind my back? His eyes flashed with frustration. They had a right to know she was alive. I froze. He regretted the words the moment they left his mouth. I could see it in his face. But it was too late. They lost that right the moment they took everything from me, I whispered, my chest heaving. And you, my voice cracked. You knew how much I feared them and dreaded the day they would return. And you still did this. His silence was answer enough. I took a shaky breath, the betrayal cutting deeper than any wound I had ever suffered. Do they know where we are? Cameron hesitated. That second of hesitation told me everything. I staggered back. Oh, my God. They haven't made a move, Kelly. They will. Soon. My heart pounded. They're just waiting for the right moment. I turned away, my mind spinning. My safe world, the one I had built for my daughter, was crumbling around me. Cameron had betrayed me. And worse, I had no idea what Jennie and Joey were planning. But I wasn't going to wait to find out. If they wanted to take my daughter, they would have to go through me. This time, I would never let them win. I didn't sleep that night. The thought of Cameron sitting across from me for years and weaving lie after lie sent my stomach into knots. My daughter had curled into my side sometime after midnight, her tiny hand resting on my chest like a weight I didn't deserve to carry anymore. How could I protect her when I hadn't seen the threat inside my home? By sunrise, I had already made up my mind. If Cameron had been sending Jennie and Joey pictures of my daughter, he would have known where they were. He had to. People like them don't just stay quiet for 4 years. Not unless they're being kept quiet. And he was the one feeding them enough to do it. I waited until he left the house. He told me he was heading to the eastern border to investigate more rogue activity. I didn't believe a word out of his mouth, so I followed the moment he got in his truck. My heart pounded like a war drum as I kept a safe distance through the winding roads and into the wooded edge of our territory. He didn't drive far. I stopped short of the tree line and ducked behind a cluster of thick pines. 10 minutes passed. Then, a shadow emerged from the woods. Jennie. She looked older. Worn, even. Her hair was tangled and darker than I remembered, and her clothes were too clean for someone supposedly banished from pack life. But it was her. I would recognize that snake smile anywhere. They spoke in hushed voices. I couldn't hear the words, just the rhythm of their conversation, low, steady, intimate. My nails bit into the bark. I inched forward, ducking low between trees, staying hidden as I watched their exchange unfold. Then, she reached out and hugged him. I froze with wide eyes open. Jennie wrapped her arms around Cameron's shoulders, and to my horror, he didn't pull away. He just stood there. Hands hovering, before he finally touched her back, just once, lightly. I stumbled backward, unable to breathe. My chest felt like it was caving in. No. 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 Not again. First, he betrayed me by hiding the truth about her being free. Then he sent her pictures of my child. And now, this? I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Were they having an affair? I staggered back to my car like I was sleepwalking. The world around me blurred, soundless, numb. I kept seeing her arms around him. The way he didn't flinch, the quiet closeness between them, there was history there. Maybe even something still alive. I didn't know how I made it home. My mind swirled with 1,000 thoughts, each more painful than the last. I didn't want to believe it, but how could I ignore what I saw? Later that evening, when Cameron returned, I was waiting for him. He barely stepped inside when asked, "Where were you today?" He blinked. "Checking the eastern border." I gave a bitter laugh. Was Jennie the rogue you were tracking? His eyes snapped to mine, all pretense gone. You followed me. You were never going to tell me, were you? I demanded. About seeing her. About hugging her. He looked stunned, then guilty. It's not what you think. Then what is it, Cameron? I snapped. Because from where I was hiding in the woods, it looked a lot like betrayal. He ran a hand over his face. You're right. I should have told you. But. Don't, I cut him off, holding up a hand. Don't lie to me again. Just give me the truth. He paused, breathing heavily. She needed help. Joey's been sick, and they've been struggling. I've just been keeping them at bay. And hugging, does she help with that? My voice cracked. What else have you been hiding? He hesitated. I saw it in the twitch of his jaw. What is it? I whispered. Tell me. Cameron. He stepped forward slowly as if every word took effort. Kelly, there's something you don't know. About Jennie. I folded my arms, bracing for the worst. What? He swallowed hard. She's my halt sister. The room spun. I stared at him, blinking slowly, waiting for it to be a cruel joke. What? I didn't know when we first met her, he said quickly. No one did. But at the hospital when she was dying, I donated my blood, and then that's where the healers told me. Then why didn't you let her die? She was dying, and who cares? She let my mother die that night. You didn't know she was your half-freaking sister anyway. I shouted back at him. Cameron was shocked. It was evident in his facial expression. Then he said, I know that. But it's not the reason we have to do what she did. It was a mistake on her part, and I'm not going to be cruel just so you can be happy with revenge. We both stopped talking for a while. I was so mad and also in pain for this betrayal. But then, Cameron continued talking. I love you because you were kind, sweet, and full of hope. I know what Jennie and Joey did change you, but I know that you'll find it in yourself to forgive. It'll give you peace and true happiness, Kelly. I scoffed. It was something I would understand if I was the same Kelly as before. But they made me brutal and hard-hearted. This bond between us? It's broken, Cameron. I want this cut off. The following day, word spread fast. Jennie had gone to the Alpha Mansion and demanded to see me. The guards were startled. No one expected her to be that bold. But I wasn't surprised. Jennie always knew how to make a scene when she needed to get something. I knew exactly what she wanted. She'd come to beg. Beg to see Camille. To pretend she had a mother's right to visit. Touch, weep, and claim forgiveness. But she had no such right. So. I didn't see her. I stayed in the guest chamber upstairs, curtains drawn, sitting on the edge of the bed with my arms wrapped around myself. I listened quietly as Jennie raised her voice in the foyer, hearing her shout that she deserved a chance, that I was being cruel, and that she loved Camille. Love doesn't come after 4 years of silence and betrayal. She waited over an hour, pacing back and forth like a restless wolf. Then Cameron returned. I watched from the window as he stepped out of his truck and caught sight of her. He walked straight past the guards straight to her, his voice firm and unreadable from a distance. Whatever he said, it was enough. Jennie backed away slowly. Lips pressed tight together. Fury etched across her face. She looked up once right at the window where I stood hidden behind the sheer curtains. She didn't see me. But he did. Cameron caught my scent. I saw at the change in his stance, the flicker of recognition in his expression. He knew I was inside. But he didn't come after me, not then. That night, as the mansion settled into silence and the pack patrolled the woods for rogue movement, I moved with quiet purpose. I packed only the essentials, just enough clothes for Camille and me, her favorite plush bunny, some old storybooks, and the emergency stash of cash I had always kept in case of disaster. When I knelt beside Camille's bed and gently stroked her hair, she stirred and opened her eyes. "Mommy," she whispered, voice groggy. I smiled softly. "We're going on a little occasion, sweetheart. Just you and me." Her tiny brows furrowed. "What about Daddy? Isn't he coming?" I hesitated, brushing her curls away from her face. "Daddy's busy right now, love. But we'll have lots of fun. Just us girls." She nodded slowly, too sleepy to ask more. By the time the sun began to rise, we were gone. I took the unpaved roads, avoiding towns and open routes. After hours of careful travel, we arrived at my family's hidden vacation house, an old cabin deep in the mountains. It was a haven secluded and untouched by time. Only my late father and I knew it existed, and as we stepped out of the car, the caretaker greeted us warmly. "Miss Kelly," she said, smiling with kind, wrinkled eyes. "It's been years." I returned the smile with tired gratitude. "It's good to be back." She cared for us that night, made soup, lit a fire, and bathed Camille while I sat outside and stared at the stars. I felt like I could finally breathe. Jennie couldn't find me here. And Cameron wouldn't dare follow. Not if he knew what was good for him. But I wasn't done. I needed answers, needed closure. So, the next morning, I journeyed to the elders' hall alone. When I stepped inside, the air thickened with incense and old magic. Elder Miro stood waiting, his pale eyes sharp behind centuries of wisdom. "I've come to ask if breaking the bond again will harm me," I said without preamble. His gaze turned grave. "You've already broken one bond, Kelly. Doing it a second time, it's not only rare, it's dangerous." "I know," I said, voice firm. "But I have to." He studied me in silence before replying, "The chances are 50-50. It may shatter your wolf. You may never bond again. It is against the moon goddess's law to react two mates. But it is your choice." I swallowed hard. "Then I'll go through with it." He nodded solemnly, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Be prepared. The goddess listens, but she punishes those who forget their nature." I thanked him and turned to leave, my heart pounding in my chest. But just as I stepped into the corridor, a hand grabbed my arm and yanked me into a shadowed corner. "Cameron." His grip was tight, almost bruising. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he growled. I tried to pull away. "Let me go." "No. Not until you tell me you're not doing something stupid." His scent was wild, different, and unbalanced. There was no tenderness in him now, only dominance. Anger. "You don't control me," I spat, shoving his chest. But he didn't budge. He pressed me against the wall, my body flushing against mine, breathing hard. "You're mine, Kelly. I'm not letting you go. Not this time." I stared at him in horror. "You forget who gave you your alpha title," I hissed. "You don't get to claim me." Then he kissed me. It was rough. Unwanted. It was a bruising attempt to win back what he'd already lost. I bit his lip hard. Blood flooded my mouth as he jerked away, eyes flashing with pain and rage. "You think you're angry at me now?" I whispered. "You don't even know what anger feels like." He wiped his mouth, chest heaving. "I will fix this. I'll make you stop hating the world." "It's too late," I said coldly. "You already ruined everything." Before he could respond, a scream pierced the air outside. Then chaos. A scout burst into the elders' hall, bloodied and breathless. "Rogues. They've breached the west gate. They're inside the pack grounds." My heart dropped. Cameron was gone in a flash, bolting out into the light. Moments later, I followed, sprinting to my car and dialing the caretaker to hide Camille somewhere safe in the house. The battle was brutal. By the time I reached the edge of the woods, Cameron had already taken down 3 rogues, but he was surrounded. His left shoulder bled heavily, one arm hanging limp. He staggered, eyes dulling with every passing second. I watched as another rogue lunged and Cameron collapsed to the ground, motionless. Even after everything, my heart clenched. Despite all his lies, he was still the one who was there for me when my world was crumbling. He's still my mate, and I still love him. I didn't think, and I just ran. The scent of blood and dirt filled my lungs as I leaped over fallen bodies, claws unsheathing mid-stride. The rogues turned, sensing me, their glowing eyes filled with hunger and violence. Cameron lay still. Too still. A snarl ripped from my throat. I lunged, fangs bared, crashing into the rogue closest to him. My claws tore through fur and flesh, the sickening crunch of bone barely registering as I ripped the beast off him. Another rogue swiped at me. I twisted, ducking under its strike, driving my claws into its ribs and tearing through its side. Blood sprayed, hot and slick. I spun, facing the last one, a monstrous brute, taller, broader, its yellowed teeth bared in a grotesque grin. It was the leader. It knew me. Kelly, it rasped, voice guttural, almost amused. Still fighting for a pack that never deserved you? My breath hitched. That voice was familiar. Memories clawed at my mind. I thought Cameron said Joey was sick. He looks way too strong to be ill. I barely had time to brace before he slammed into me, sending us both crashing through the underbrush. His weight pinned me, his claws raking down my arms. Pain seared through me, but I twisted, using his momentum to roll us over. We tumbled down the slope, landing hard on the riverbank. He recovered first. A clawed hand wrapped around my throat, squeezing. I gasped, vision spotting. "Did you really think you could run, little Alpha?" he whispered. "This is for stealing my child." Panic surged through me. Then, just as my world darkened, the pressure vanished. All I hear is a howl of agony. Cameron was bleeding, battered, but standing. There was a dagger in his hand. The roque stumbled back, clutching his side where the blade had struck. His eyes flicked to mine, and something unreadable passed through them. Then he bolted, disappearing into the trees. Cameron swayed. I caught him before he could fall. His body was heavy, his blood soaking into my clothes, but I didn't care. Pressed a hand to his wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "You idiot," I whispered, voice shaking. "You weren't supposed to get hurt." He coughed weakly, a bitter smile ghosting his lips. "You still love me." I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because even now, with everything broken between us, with my heart torn in two, I didn't know if I could deny it. Then, through the mind link, there's another scream. I froze. No. Not Camille. I shot to my feet, pulse pounding too fast. Cameron grabbed my wrist, his grip weak. "Go," he rasped. "Find her." I hesitated, torn between him and the daughter we both loved. Then I ran. I sprinted through the trees, my breath ragged, twigs snapping beneath my feet. Every muscle burned, but I didn't slow down. My mind raced, and my heart pounded in my ears. I burst into the clearing, the cabin in sight. The front door was open. The scent of fear and blood filled the air. I bolted inside. "Camille!" I shouted, searching the small space. No answer. The caretaker lay on the floor, blood pooling beneath her. She was alive, barely. I knelt beside her, pressing my hand to her wound. "Where is she?" I demanded. Her breath was shallow. "They took her," she whispered. This was what they've been planning since. No wonder they are staying quiet. "Mommy." Camille calls through the mind link before it goes silent. I ran like hell. The wind howled through the mountains, carving my desperate scent as I sprinted toward the cabin. My paws tore through the earth, my heart hammered, and every instinct screamed that something was wrong. I shifted the second I reached the front steps, barely feeling the cold as I stumbled forward. The door was ajar. Blood streaked the floorboards. My breath hitched. The caretaker lay crumpled in the entryway, her throat torn open. But Camille. She was gone. A guttural, soul-wrenching growl ripped from my throat. My claws sank into the wooden frame, splintering it. I tilted my head back and howled, raw agony pouring into the night. The pack answered instantly. Howls echoed through the valley, wolves responding to my call. A mind link snapped open. Alpha, one of my warriors, spoke cautiously. We're mobilizing. We'll find her. Joey and Jennie had collaborated with the rogues to get my daughter. I want every werewolf responsible for this caught and imprisoned, I ordered, my voice shaking with fury. My hands curled into fists as I looked at the caretaker's still body. I forced my shaking fingers to close her eyes. I'm sorry, I whispered. At some point, I blame myself for taking Camille away from Jennie. If I hadn't, this would not have happened. Camille would have been happy, and Cameron wouldn't have been hurt. Days blurred together. Cameron still hadn't woken up. His condition remained unstable, his breathing shallow. The healers worked tirelessly, but he wasn't healing fast enough. And no one had found Camille. I refused to rest. I combed through reports, issued orders, and sent scouts into every neighboring territory. But each time, they came back with nothing. The rogues had covered their tracks well. One evening, Elder Miros arrived at the mansion. His presence made the air heavier, his power crackling around him. He glanced at Cameron's unconscious body before turning to me. You still wish to break the bond? He asked. I exhaled sharply. I had wanted to. I'd been so sure. But now. It has to be done under the full moon, right? He nodded. Full moon is tonight. If not, it could destroy you. I swallowed hard. Cameron was many things: stubborn, reckless, infuriating. But he was also my mate. And despite everything, I couldn't bring myself to be the reason he died. What happens to him if I do it? I asked, voice quiet. Mira's eyes darkened. Mates share strength. If you sever the bond while he's in this state, he may not survive. The words settled in my chest like a stone. I should have said good. I should have walked away. Instead, I clenched my jaw. Then I'll wait. Miro studied me for a long moment before nodding. Then let the goddess decide his fate. After that, I was running on fumes. One moment, I was in the elder's room, then in the war room, issuing orders. The next, the world tilted, my vision blurred, and darkness swallowed me whole. When I came to, the healer hovered over me, frowning. You need to rest, she scolded. I can't rest, I snapped. My daughter is missing, my mate is half dead, and my pack. I understand, Luna. We are your responsibility. But what about your responsibility to your new child in that womb? The healer calmly said. What do you mean? I asked, my eyebrow furrowed in confusion. You're pregnant. I blinked. What? I couldn't breathe. This wasn't happening. Not now. Not when Camille was still out there. Not when I was barely holding myself together. I pressed a trembling hand to my stomach as if I could feel something. A heartbeat. A life. Cameron's child. This is mine, and Cameron's made it with love. I couldn't be selfish anymore. I had to be a good mate and a good mother. For so long, I had let anger and pain consume me, turning me into someone I barely recognized. I blamed Cameron, Jennie, and even the moon goddess for my suffering. But now, as I placed a protective hand over my stomach, I knew I had to let it go. I prayed to the moon goddess for Cameron's recovery and Camille's safe return. I needed my daughter back. No more failures. No more losses. The search for Camille lasted weeks. Each day without her felt like an eternity, but I never stopped looking. My warriors scoured every rogue hideout and interrogated every captured traitor, yet no one had answers until one day, something changed. Joey turned himself in. He stood before me in the war room, shackled and exhausted, his face sunken from guilt and regret. "Alpha," he said, dropping to his knees, his voice thick with desperation, "please, forgive me." Jennie's rage blinded me, but I never wanted this for Camille. She's just a child. My child. I'll do anything, just save her. My hands clenched into fists at my sides. I wanted to rip him apart. The thought of Camille suffering because of his choices made my wolf claw at me for vengeance. But Camille was my priority. "Where is she?" I demanded. Joey lowered his head. "With Jennie. She's becoming crazy. Camille keeps crying for you, and it only makes Jennie angrier. If we don't act fast," his voice wavered. "I'm afraid she'll kill her." I wasted no time. I gathered my strongest warriors and stormed their hideout. The rogues were ready for a fight, but they underestimated me. Rage fueled every strike. My claws tore through flesh. My fangs sank into enemies who dared to stand between me and my child. My pack fought viciously, cutting down any who opposed us. When I reached the back room, the scent of blood and fear nearly crippled me. Camille sat curled in the corner, trembling. She was thin, too thin. Bruises marred her delicate skin, a sickening sight that made my stomach turn. Jennie loomed over her, eyes wild, face twisted in fury. "You ruined everything," she hissed when she saw me. "Stop this," I pleaded. "Don't let your child hate you." "She already does," Jennie spat. "Because of you. You took her from me. You stole what was mine." I shook my head. "No. You did this to yourself." Jennie lunged at me, and we clashed in a blur of claws and fury. She was strong, driven by madness and desperation, but I was stronger. I knocked her to the ground, pinning her beneath me. "It's over," I said, my voice like steel. She screamed. Fought. Cursed, but it didn't matter. My warriors restrained her, and I turned to Camille. Her big, frightened eyes met mine. "Mommy?" I dropped to my knees, scooping her into my arms. "I'm here, baby. I've got you." Her tiny arms wrapped around my neck, and I felt like I could breathe for the first time in weeks. Jennie was taken into custody. The trial was set immediately. Cameron woke up the night before the trial. When I walked into his room, his golden eyes met mine, filled with exhaustion and something else, regret. "You're awake," I breathed. His throat bobbed as he swallowed. "You didn't break the bond." "No," I admitted. "I couldn't." Silence stretched between us. Finally, he sighed. "You saved Camille?" "Yes." His eyes softened, but before either of us could say anything more, a warrior entered. "The elders request both you and Cameron at the trial." Cameron just woke up. "He can't leave." Cameron stopped me and said it was okay. I nodded and held his hand, walking side by side to the trial. The trial chamber was filled with tension. Every high-ranking pack member and elder was present, seated in a semicircle around Jennie, who stood shackled before them. Her face was bruised, but her eyes still held defiance. The accusations against her were severe kidnapping, child abuse, conspiracy with rogues. But then she spoke, her voice ringing through the chamber. "This is a setup," she sneered. "You think I'm the villain?" Cameron and Kelly orchestrated this entire thing. They allowed the rogue attacks to spread fear. They wanted the pack to be weak so they could tighten their grip on power. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I scoffed. "That's absurd." "Is it?" Jennie's lips curled into a smirk. "Or is it just convenient that every attack strengthens your rule? You even stole my child." The elders turned to us. "You will both answer for these claims," one of them declared. "Cameron." Kelly, you will stand trial as well. I froze. Jennie's twisted smile sent a chill down my spine. She had one last move to play and we had just walked into it. The chamber was heavy with tension. All eyes were on Jennie, who stood in chains, her face twisted with fury. Across from her, Jove took his place as a witness. I swear on the moon goddess, Joey said, his voice steady. Jennie and I conspired with the rogues. But I didn't know how far she'd go. I never thought she would hurt Camille. Jennie's head snapped toward him, her eyes blazing. Liar, she screamed. You're only saying this because they threatened you with our child. That's not true, Joey said firmly. I turned myself in because I saw what you did to her. She was starving, crying for her mother, and he exhaled sharply. You hit her, Jennie. Jennie's body trembled with rage. I would never hurt our daughter if it weren't for Kelly, she spat. She stole Camille from me, turned her against me. This is her fault. The elders turned to me. Their gazes were piercing. Kelly, one of them said. Is the child yours? A lump formed in my throat, but I still admitted it. No, I admitted. My voice wavered, but I forced myself to continue. Camille is Jove and Jennie's child. I took her because Jennie was proven guilty of my mother's accident, and Joey betrayed me when he cheated on me and made other people challenge me to weaken me and lose. I lost my own child during our alpha challenge. My fingers curled into fists. Was in pain. I did something wrong, something selfish. But I never mistreated her. I loved her like she was my own. Jennie let out a bitter laugh. So you get to love her, but I don't, she sneered. You turned her against me. You made me do this. I met her wild gaze. No, Jennie. You did this to yourself. The elders exchanged glances before one of them spoke. The Alpha or Luna has the right to take a child away if the mother is in prison, especially if she is a relative. It was proven that Jennie and Cameron are blood-related, he said. However, your fault, Kelly, is not informing us. That was a mistake. But maltreating a child is a grave crime. My breath caught in my throat. As punishment, you will be stripped of your Luna title. A gasp rippled through the chamber. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding. I wasn't surprised. I had expected punishment. But it still hurts. As for Cameron, the elder continued, turning to him, you aided Kelly in this deception. As a result, you will be demoted from Alpha to General of the Warrior Pack, considering you led most of our warriors to safety and fought with them. Cameron nodded. He didn't flinch. Jennie smirked, thinking she had won until the elder's gaze landed on her. Jennie and Joey, he said coldly. You conspired with rogues. Your actions led to the deaths of our warriors. For this, you are both banished from the pack forever. Jennie will be sent to our neighboring pack as a slave to ensure she won't be trying to keep crossing the borders and plot another treason. Jennie's scream was ear-piercing. You can't do this to me. You can't. She thrashed, but the warriors held her down. Her gaze locked onto Cameron, wild with desperation. Cameron, help me. You said you'd always help me. Cameron stared at her, his expression unreadable. I tried to help you, he said finally. But look at what happened to Camille. His jaw tightened. That's not something you do if you love her. Tears ran down Jennie's face, but Cameron looked away. It was over. The pack murmured amongst themselves. Though I was no longer their Luna, I could feel their sympathy. They understood. What I did was wrong, but werewolves were emotional, possessive creatures. My actions weren't excusable, but they weren't unforgivable either. Cameron reached for my hand. I squeezed his fingers tightly, my heart swelling as we turned away from the trial together. We didn't need titles. We had each other. That night, we returned home. Camille ran to us the moment we stepped inside. Mommy. Daddy. I scooped her into my arms, inhaling her scent and feeling her small body pressed against mine. Cameron kissed the top of her head, his grip on her just as desperate. "We're home, baby," I whispered. "You're safe." She clung to me, burying her face in my neck. I felt her tiny body tremble. "No more bad people?" "No more bad people," I promised. Cameron wrapped his arms around us, pressing a kiss against my temple. "She'll never be hurt again," he murmured. For the first time in a long time, I believed it. As we settled Camille into bed, I felt Cameron's gaze on me. I turned to him, my heart thudding. "There's something I need to tell you," I said. His brow furrowed. "What is it?" I exhaled slowly, reaching for his hand and placing it against my stomach. His eyes widened. "Kelly." I smiled and said, "Yes." For the first time in forever, everything felt right. Today's story is over. Thank you all for listening.